Uh, Pardon the confusion here. Trying to log into Viz doesn't want to work. Here we go. Took forever. I don't know why. Anyway, yeah, so let's start the stream by saying I was right. 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 I already read the chapter. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read the chapter yet. We're going to do that right now. But I was right because I said people were talking about Momo and people were talking about a certain character and when Dandadan's going to end and what's the next arc going to be and all these questions. And I said, I know exactly what's going to happen with Momo because, you know, like what are the odds that she doesn't have her powers now when a certain character is looking to, you know, exploit the characters. I was right. So we're going to get to it. I've read the chapter. Some of you might not have read the chapter yet. So we're going to read the chapter and then we're going to talk about it. But my God, does it feel vindicating? The only other thing I will say about this chapter was a huge tease because basically we all know what's going to happen. And I feel like Tatsu keeps teeing us up because we all know what's going to happen. But he's really making us work for it. But we'll see. Excuse me. We got Justin. Justin, how you doing? Also, Justin, how did your Bears do yesterday? Didn't they do pretty well, or am I crazy? We got Aho Height. How you doing? LK Gaming Verse says Dandadan is anime of the year. So that's the other thing I want to talk about now that we're halfway through October, almost done with October. Well into, well, a couple episodes into the fall season. I really feel like, with the exception of maybe My Hero, well, we have to talk about last fall's stuff too, because I think they're still doing, I feel like they changed it, but like there's the weird fall of previous year crossover when it comes to the Crunchyroll Awards. So basically for this year, we have to factor in Solo Leveling Season 2, which is crazy because Solo Leveling Season 2, because what was I going to say? When did that even start? Now that I think about it. Point being, Solo Leveling Season 2 is in the equation, and the weird thing is when everyone voted for Solo Leveling last time, so this year's awards, that was technically supposed to be based on Season 1. And now it's going to be Season 2. And I don't know, I feel like it could go either way. I feel like just by putting Solo Leveling in the nominations, everyone's just going to vote for Solo Leveling. But on the other hand, now that it'll have been like a year old by the time it's time to vote for it, I feel like people won't be as like biased towards it, in favor of it. Hot take, I don't mind it being Solo Leveling Season 2. Part of it is the timing, but part of it is also like, I don't know, like as good as Solo Leveling Season 2 is, there's just better stuff that came out. Like I definitely like Dandadan Season 2 better. I feel like Gachi Akata is a series that by the end of the year is not going to get the credit it deserves, but is definitely deserving to be in the conversation for anime of the year. I think it's in the same conversation as Dandadan for sure when it comes to the anime. Excuse me. Yeah, Gachi Akata is definitely underrated for sure. But One Punch Man is another one where I feel like people are going to vote for it, even though nobody actually thinks it's anime of the year. I just think One Punch Man is going to get the like, oh, it's One Punch Man, so obviously it's like the best thing ever. Because I mean, if you ever followed the Manga of the Year awards on Rogers Base, people did that all the time, like especially with these creators who are pushing these agendas. Like they wouldn't even have heard of these other manga, and like they got to vote for anime of the year just because they like One Punch Man. Like it was crazy. What's going on, Tyler? We got the Baby Yoda. I think MHA deserves anime of the year. MHA has had a couple of good episodes, very good episodes, mind you. But I think we'll have to see how the rest of the season pans out. It is crazy though, like how fast people flipped on My Hero from it being like the biggest piece of crap ever to it for the manga to now the anime looks great and everyone's like, hear me out, right? It's crazy. Andre Partridge, how you doing? We're doing good. How you doing, man? Ahohite wants to know, do I think To Be Hero X is valid? I am not a good person to ask because I watched the first episode and hated it. So personally, I don't think so. But I don't think it's fair to ask me when I didn't get past the first episode. I can certainly make the argument, but I don't think I don't have as much ground to stand on as somebody who actually watched the whole season. I can talk about why I didn't like it, but I don't think I'm a good candidate for talking about why it doesn't deserve to be considered. It's official. ZZ says, I don't like the transition from last week's chapter to this chapter. Like, what was the point of the looking into the eyes as if Momo was going to ask something? Well, didn't she? Right? Didn't we start off this chapter and she asked a question? Oh, yeah, I guess it was kind of casual. Let's take a look. So she says this is serious, so I guess that's true. Yeah. Then we transition to this chapter. So it does feel like there was a bit of a gap in their conversation, like we maybe fast forward a few minutes. So I that's a valid point. I'll support that. I don't necessarily agree, but I see where you're coming from. Animal Skins said something earlier that I neglected to address. No, I guess you erased it. What is Dandadan's lowest arc? Its least good arc, in my opinion, because I don't think it has any bad arcs. But its least good arc is whatever the arc is called where Rin gets her powers. That's a good arc, but it's very short. I don't feel like Rin is as interesting as the other characters. It's a good backstory, but compared to the other backstories, also not as interesting, if you ask me. So it's good. I'd say it's like a solid 7, but it's not as exciting, if you ask me. Official ZZ says, I did like the chapter though. Interested on where we're gonna go. Yeah, I want to get into the chapter now that everyone's here. But this chapter was like very mundane, but like also pretty crazy. Referring to One Punch Man Japan catastrophe, staff is ruining it. I'm not quite sure what you mean. There is an interesting dynamic going on where like people hate the anime, so they blame the staff, but it's really not the staff's fault. so much as it is like the people in charge and the producers. So yeah, the JC staff situation sucks. It just sucks all around. Would you like to read a potential One Punch Man spinoff called One Kick Girl, where a young orphan girl named Ringo gets both really long black hair and the power to kill anything with one kick? So she is like literally the exact opposite of Saitama. She gets long hair and she kicks people. There would have to be something else to make it interesting and not just like One Punch Man trying not to be One Punch Man. But yeah, I like that. That sounds pretty cool. We got CW Artist in chat. How we doing, CW? Haven't been reading much manga lately, but I started The Climber and I binged the first 40 chapters. I've never even heard of that. Excuse me. Anyway, let's talk about Dandadan. So we're going to read chapter 214, today's chapter. Chapter 214 is super frustrating. Fernando, expand on that. What do you mean? Give me all the thoughts. Anyway, one frame, man. Not even one frame, one screenshot. I was willing to apologize for and defend One Punch Man until the new episode came out, and there was the clip of Garo going down the hill, and they literally just took like a cutout of him, like a render, and just like keyframed it down the hill without any interaction between him or the hill. And it's just like, bro, what is going on? Like, that's gotta be the worst animation I've ever seen. Like, you could pay a college student doing their thesis project to do a better job animating One Punch Man. Like, it's insane. It's crazy. Let me catch up to Dandadan. I've got like 5 or 6 chapters left. All right, do that. Come back. We'll talk about the chapter. As of yesterday, I finally collected all of MHA in the first 2 volumes of Dandadan. That's awesome, man. Good for you. I don't have all of MHA, but I have most of them. And I have to say, especially now, the My Hero covers are so good. Yeah, they just use a mouse to move Garo, basically. Anyway, so today's chapter basically picks up from last week's chapter, but there does seem to be a little bit of a time skip, like by a few minutes. People defending that are on another level. I mean, One Punch Man is a classic case of like, oh, it used to be really cool, and, you know, it's got Saitama, and it's got Yusuke Murata and One. So if we don't defend everything about it, then we're not good fans and we never liked it. So we have to defend everything about it. It's really stupid. It's not great. A bit off topic, but have you ever thought of reviewing Katekyo Hitman Reborn? I have thought about it, and I'm not avoiding it necessarily, but I've just been focused on other things. It's on my list, and I want to check it out sometime, because I know a lot of people talk about it like it's an underrated masterpiece. It just, I haven't gotten around to it yet, but it's definitely on the it's on the agenda for sure. I just don't know when I'll get around to it. Anyway, so yeah, they open with the conversation that we've all been wondering about, and they've been kind of dancing around it for the last few chapters, but they finally address it. Momo says, oh yeah, what's your name? And Okarun is like, I'm not doing this. And she's like, excuse me? And he goes, no, I'm not doing this. You're not gonna like it. On the one hand, I like this conversation because it's perfectly in character for the both of them. It's like perfectly consistent with how Momo would have behaved in the very early chapters, but it also is very reflective of like how their dynamic is now. That being said, I hate this conversation because I wish they would just get to the point, because we all know he's gonna say it at some point, right? Or she's gonna say it, somebody's gonna say it, and it just it feels like we're dancing around it to like build up hype, you know, a few chapters down the line. And the fact that they won't just say it when it's so obvious that they should just say it is so clearly being used to like allow for other plot developments that happen in this chapter. But I don't know. I don't hate it, but it does feel like a little, I guess not contrived, but like forced, maybe? I don't know. I waited 6 years for One Punch Man and I'm so disappointed. That's the thing about One Punch Man, is you can still go read the manga, but it's this weird situation where like everything after the stuff with Garo is like, it's okay. It's good. It's not what it used to be. But it's still Yusuke Murata and it's still like cool superhero stuff, but like it's not nearly as interesting. But then you get to the anime and the anime looks like hot trash. So it's like, what do? Do you read the manga where like it's kind of just more of the same? Or do you watch the anime, which has the better story, but looks like absolute trash? It's like, what do you do? Yeah, that's the thing, right? They kind of dance around his name. It feels very like cheeky to me. That whole conversation felt like an editor told Tatsu he's got to drag out this romance. Yeah, I suspect that there's a bit of like editor influence at play, but I'm not really gonna make that claim because I don't have anything to substantiate that. So I just don't feel like it's a fair criticism. But I do totally get that, like, it's something we should consider for sure. Meanwhile, MHA has insane animation. Studio Bones is so crazy because, like, obviously it's a bigger... It's a decently sized studio, especially now. Excuse me. You look at all of their projects, and their projects are, like, in terms of animation and style and consistency, it feels like you get something totally different with each anime they work on. And I was talking about this on Thursday, but I feel like with Bones, is it? Trying to think. Yeah, I feel like with Bones, it kind of just comes down to the producers. Because My Hero has really high peaks, but it's also very inconsistent. Mob Psycho, amazing. Yeah, I really can't criticize anything about Mob Psycho. It's like one of their best anime. Then you get to Gachi Akata, which like doesn't have the peaks of My Hero, and it's not as good as Mob Psycho, but it's way more consistent than My Hero. Like My Hero will look like this one week, and then next week it'll look like trash. At least in previous seasons. Whereas like Gachi Akata, same studio, but like it's just like this, where like you have some scenes that look good, some scenes that look eh, but it's like consistently like the same quality every week, every episode. So in that sense, I feel like Gachi Akata is actually kind of an improvement over My Hero. We got Eden's in chat finally. Eden's. I was wondering where you were for a hot minute. Glad to have you. I'm gonna read it after I finish catching up on Frieren. Well, yeah, definitely read. Definitely read Frieren, because I hate to say it, but Frieren's not finishing anytime soon. Bones is my favorite studio, 100%. I like Bones. They're not my favorite, but they definitely are in a tier above everyone else. Definitely better than JC Staff. Is Mob Psycho similar to Dandadan? Haven't watched it, but it looks similar. Premise-wise, sort of. It's got like weird occult stuff. It's got like crazy animation. And it's also very wholesome, like Dandadan. You know, when Dandadan isn't about balls. But the way they approach characters is a little more homey, I guess. There's less, I don't know. I definitely think if you like Dandadan, you would like Mob Psycho. I don't know, does anyone else in chat want to chime in? FMA and Soul Eater as well were amazing for their time. I don't include those only because they're like 20 years old now. So, or getting there at least. So I like to, when we're talking about, you know, best studios now, I like to talk about their more modern stuff, which makes every bone in my body ache and need an oil change to say that 2000s anime are no longer modern, but here we are. How many chapters of Dandadan are currently out, by the way? We're on chapter 214. Had something happen with work, got delayed right before the stream started. That's okay, man. Life happens. It's all good. DJ Sauls says, hello, how's it going? Dandadan taught me so much about Japanese culture and famous people, and they reinvent problematic tropes. Yes, something I've talked about a number of times, so absolutely right. Tried to get my mom to watch Mob, but she didn't like the art style, probably because she's an artist. I don't know. Well, what is she like for art styles then? I feel like the only person on Earth who's seen Mob Psycho. It was super popular back in the day, so the only thing is like it's not like a Shonen Jump series, and it's not really a battle series, so people on Twitter aren't hyping the shit out of it like every 2 seconds. Anyway, so yeah, we get the conversation with Okaroon and Momo. Okaroon again talks about how it feels crappy, how like Momo is sitting right next to him, but she feels like a total stranger. So then they have their episode 1-esque conversation where they're talking about aliens versus ghosts, and Momo is like, listen, the aliens, come on, that's a little ridiculous. Who do I look like? Joe Rogan? Who do I look like? Elon Musk? And then he's like, dude, trust me. Like, you've seen aliens so many times. Like, just trust me. And she's like, really? And they're like, well, let's go meet an alien. And then they go to meet Vamola, and Vamola's like, oh yeah, my alien-powered suit. It's in the shop. Sorry. And Momo is like, really, bro? So then they talk about going to see Mr. Peeny Weeny. One thing I did like about this chapter is the fact that like they have a conversation about how like they used to walk home all the time. And it's interesting because like they make a big deal out of it. And on the one hand, it does feel not regressive, but like it does feel like kind of old news that they make such a big deal about the fact that like they walk home together. But it also is like a nice highlight of the fact that like even though we knew it, it is like a nice in-story conversation about the fact that like these characters were clearly more than friends, right? So I thought that was nice. But then Okaroon's like, okay, well, we can't go see any of the literal aliens that we know, so why don't we go look at alien technology? So they go to see Kinta and all of their buddies in the occult club, and of course what should have been so obvious, like just show her the nano skin, gets totally forgotten about in like 2 seconds. And all of a sudden they start fighting about, but basically who was Momo's best friend, right? Ginta tries to convince her that they were dating. Gigi just is classic Gigi, and he makes a comment about Smash Brothers when I don't even think Momo even played Smash Brothers. And then Ira is Ira and tries to convince Momo that like she's her master, basically, which isn't very PC in 2025, but here we are. Excuse me. So that's that. Momo's like, well, this sucks because you guys are all calling each other liars. So like, what the hell are we doing here? We transition from that to Gigi referencing Seiko, basically saying like she's fine, but also not really because she's on surgery number 2. So she's kind of bummed out. It does make me wonder like how long Seiko is going to be out of the story, but I guess we can't really say too much more on that right now. I do feel like it's convenient timing that she's out of the story and now you know who is making a move again. Then Ira decides to randomly transform into her yokai form, and this confirms that Momo, not only can she not use her powers, but she can't even see anything like spirit related. So she at her best, all she can really do is just like vaguely detect auras, but that's pretty much it. And then Ira says the thing. She says Takakura. That's it. She doesn't say Takakura Ken. She doesn't say Ken. She just says Takakura. So then Momo says she has this feeling of being left out. She has this bad feeling, which to me, I don't know about everybody else, but it felt like these were her unresolved feelings about feeling like she was being left out of the group and like being all alone before she got shrunk. That never really got resolved. And this is when Saint Germain steps in, who is randomly wearing slippers instead of shoes. And that's why I said, I was right, I was right, I was right, I was right. Because I said from the beginning, what if Count Saint Germain uses this to manipulate Momo, either convince her to be his friend, his ally, or convince Momo and somebody else, like, give me your powers and I'll fix Momo. It's something like that is going to happen. I sincerely feel like that's what's going to happen, because he already tried to control Okarun, but Okarun didn't have his powers. He's been really trying to like break into the group for a while now, so I feel like something's going to go wrong, or right in his case. My mom's favorite anime is unironically Dandadan and then Chainsaw Man. Well, your mom has some pretty cultured taste in anime. Very, very hip. Very cool. I literally found out the king did monster designs for Dandadan. That's pretty cool. What about the alien things coming out of her head? Oh, with Vamola. She probably thinks it's like a costume or something. Her little like antennas. Yeah. Yeah, she would probably I think it's funny that they don't address that. Like, she has literal antennas sticking out of her head. But she would probably say something like, "Oh, that's like a prosthetic," or like, "Oh, she's just wearing a headband." It is funny that you brought that up. I didn't even think of that. Anyway, this was a solid chapter, but I feel like it's more of the same. with like some confirmations about characters, but really the highlight of this chapter is the cliffhanger, Count Saint Germain, right? Like that's what people have been theorizing, and like now it's here, so it's gonna happen. Oh, and her third favorite is Cyberpunk, Edgerunners, and Evangelion. She's got quite the cultured list of anime. Good props to mom. Anyway, yeah, so what do we have for predictions for next week's chapter, right? I hope we're not on break. Nope. Another chapter in 7 days. So honestly, I feel like this is going to be the best chapter of Dandadan since the whole amnesia reveal, but we'll see. I'd give it like a 6. I do want to look at Manga Plus and see how that might have changed since Sunday. Oscar in chat, hello there, manga fellas. Oscar, you just missed our read through of today's Dandadan chapter. Basically, my takeaway is I was right, because I've been saying forever that Count Saint Germain is going to step in and manipulate Momo. And what does he do in this chapter? He's stepping in to confuse Momo, basically. So we'll see. Yeah. If I didn't say it already, what is your takeaway / review of today's Dandadan chapter? Oh my god, I just read chapter 214. Well, Baby Yoda, I will ask you as well. What do you think of today's chapter? Manga Plus, very interesting. So I'm actually going to start from the bottom this time. So Kyoshi at 39. Kyoshi at its lowest, I think maybe it's been at 40 at one point, but generally speaking, it's the lowest it's ever been. Strong chance it might even get knocked out of the top 40 for a while, but I think even if that happens, it'll come back. Everyone talking about Gigi hitting on Momo all this time when it's Ira and Kenta doing it. It's so crazy because I said in my last video, like, Kenta is a pervert, even though he's not really a pervert, but like he's a pervert because like he's always trying to like hook up with the girls, even if he's like, you know, pretty respectful. And people are like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. That's nonsense. Literally, he gets a crumb of a chance to pick up Momo. And he's like, yes, you might not remember it, but you and I were lovers. It's like, bro, come on. Who are we kidding? And then you have Ira, who, as like cool with Momo as she is not gonna pass up the chance to hit on Okarun. So yeah, there's when it comes to certain topics in the community, there's a lot of copium going around. Oscar says, for me, the anime of the season and year is Takapi. Yeah, I didn't catch that one. I should probably watch it before the year ends just to have an opinion. I know a lot of people liked that anime, and apparently rightfully so. King Kama Trigon says, bro, your channel just turned into rant, send me help. I'm not really sure what you mean. My channel has always had rants. If you have something wrong with them, you're welcome to, you know, state your opinion, but if you're just going to be a troll, then I don't really have too much else to say besides that. Takabi is pretty good, I won't lie, but just not my type of story. That's the thing. I'm not really like huge into like soul-sucking, depressing anime. Like that's why I never got into To Your Eternity. I'd rather watch either like, you know, like thought-provoking anime that are like a little more upbeat, or like like very wholesome or like action based. Oh, SMH is shaking my head. Excuse me. I thought it was send me help. Well, same idea. I think you'd like to Topoki? Tapaki? Yeah, Takopi, yeah. Blah. It looks like a good anime. It's not usually the kind of thing I read or watch. Kenta probably knew that she wouldn't believe him, but he had to try anyway because it would be a shame to miss the opportunity. I don't know if you guys know this, but Kenta is a big hockey fan, and as a hockey fan, he likes and let me clarify, I'm saying hockey, not like hockey from One Piece. But as a hockey fan, he knows the Wayne Gretzky quote. You miss 100% of the shots you don't make, right? I think that's Gretzky. So basically, he saw his shot and he had to take it. Gotta respect game. Send me help. Look, man, I tried. That's like Eden's, what did I say? Farming Aura. That one, that's a good one. People misunderstand Momo's answer and think she forgot her favorite actor. Takakura is a fairly common name in Japan. She just didn't connect it with Ken Takakura. No, I read that as she heard that and like made the association, but like didn't necessarily think like, oh, well, his name must be Ken Takakura, right? It'd be like if you ask somebody their name. I'm trying to think of a modern example or a relevant example. It would be like if you asked somebody their last name and they said their last name was Swift, and you're like, really? Your last name is Swift? Like you might not necessarily assume their name is Taylor Swift, but you're gonna make that association, right? Like, oh, hey, I was literally just listening to Taylor Swift. That's so crazy, right? Oh, Farming Aura and oh yeah, Dang Ers. That was my favorite. Yeah, that was a good one. That's why we need somebody to make clips. To be honest, Takapi, as good as it is not an anime for everyone. That's the thing. Like, it looks good. It looks like the kind of anime that after a few episodes, like, I need to watch some Dandadan or like One Piece, something wholesome. But anyway, Manga Plus. Kyoshi is 39, so I have a feeling it's going to get knocked out of the top 40 for a while. Or at the very least, stay at the bottom. Marriage Toxin is doing well. Martial King is 29, so... Odor of the Flame is 26, so I think it made a bit of a comeback. Hero Organization, Drama Queen, about the same. Rory Dragon, Mad, and Make the Exorcist Fall in Love, making good progress. And then, of course, our top 10 all look the same for the most part. Blue Box, Centuria, Ichi, Kagurabachi, Spy Family. It's crazy to me that Spy Family hasn't moved up because Sakamoto Days... Although, is Sakamoto Days running right now? Am I crazy? Let's go to Mal. What is that from? I didn't hear no bell ring. Oh my god, I can literally picture that scene you're referencing, but I can't think of the show. What the? I know that's from something. Crap. Edens, what is that from? Because I know the reference they're making. I just can't remember. It's on the... I can picture it. I just can't remember what it was. One Piece, my favorite wholesome story. Yeah, but One Piece is wholesome in like a very like cathartic way. Like when they say bye to Vivi, like obviously that's sad, but you know, at the same time it's like, aw, they're friends. It's South Park, that's what it was. Now that you said South Park, I vividly remember it's when he's fighting the Bat Dad in that baseball episode where for the whole summer they get good at losing baseball games, but they keep getting beat by other baseball teams. And so they use Randy at the last second to get ejected from the game, and they like finally lose, so they don't have to play baseball for the rest of the year. And he's like, I'm sorry, I thought this was America. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, no, Odor of the Flame is not going anywhere anytime soon, I don't think. I'd say it's got at least a year left. OG, did you see Ultimate Kyoshi is getting a print release next summer? Yeah, Kyoshi is another one, especially after the recent announcement or the recent cuts. I think it has at least another year, probably 2 if they're gonna let it play out for one more arc. It's probably got 2 more years at least. What was I gonna say? Oh, I was trying to figure out if Sakamoto Days is running, which I don't think so, no. So it's crazy that it's still as high as it is. I thought not having the anime and Spy Family having an anime would move it up, but I guess not. It is like very close to Sakamoto Days though. I think the only thing holding it back is Sakamoto Days is weekly and Spy Family is like every other week, basically. Dandadan is number 5, still well ahead of Sakamoto Days. Then Boruto, then Jujutsu Kaisen Medulla, which was previously number 1, but has been knocked down not only to not only from the 2 spots. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's behind One Piece. And One Piece is not number 1, it is now Chainsaw Man, which if you've been following the top 40 is not surprising. It's crazy like how many people would claim Chainsaw Man has fallen off, but like you look at Manga Plus and it's the number 1 manga on Manga Plus. I think that is movie hype for sure. And I also think that's because of like Fujimoto stocks in general just being sky high right now after Look Back. And I think that's only going to be more true when we get the one-shot anime in November. The Reze movie is definitely helping Chainsaw Man. Yeah, people had this like weird hang up with the anime, and that kind of contributed to the like Chainsaw Man sucks train during part 2. But like it's like stronger than ever, I would say. But it's like so weird because like at least during part 1 it wasn't as popular, but like the people who loved it, like with 100% consensus, like this deserves to be as popular as it is. Now we're in part 2 and it's somehow more popular, but like you have a very divided fan base of people who either want to die by the sword for it or people who are like very disillusioned by it. So it's in a very weird place, if you ask me. It's official ZZ is basically saying, I'm paraphrasing a bit, do you think One Piece needs to be as long as it is for telling the story, or is Oda just terrible with pacing? I see people argue both. I think it's as long as it needs to be for Oda to tell the story he wants to tell. I am not going to sit here and be like, you can cut this out, you can cut this out, you can cut this out, right? Like, you don't need this, you don't need this. Because everything in the story makes some kind of contribution. That being said, I do feel like pacing in post time skip has a lot less of a sense of urgency than pre-time skip. Pre-time skip always felt like it was building up to something, whereas like post-time skip, it weirdly feels like Oda is taking his time. That's just me though. Check out the Climber manga. I'm gonna look it up just so I know what it looks like. Oh yeah, I think somebody recommended this before. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into it soon. Thank you, Baby Yoda. Chainsaw Man is still peak. I'll die on that hill. Part 1 is still goated. I'll die on that hill. And part 2 is good. But it's very different for sure. To be honest, excuse me, every popular manga at some point has a now it sucks moment, even if it doesn't suck at all. The Fullbring arc in Bleach is a legendary example at this point. At this point, it's already the Mandela effect where people think it was bad because everyone said so. Yeah, it's a bit of media bias where like you see enough people say Chainsaw Man fell off and you just kind of assume it fell off. That being said, there are genuine reasons why people feel like Chainsaw Man fell off. The pacing is slightly worse than part 1. It's crazy. I would have to like sit down and really do a deep dive. But I feel like there's something missing with the pacing in part 2 that Fujimoto is doing basically the same thing he did in part 1 where when it comes to like Chainsaw Man pacing, but there is something about it where like it feels totally different. Part 1, like the pacing felt all over the place, but like you still felt like it was building towards something. But something about part 2, it has the exact same pacing, but you're like constantly like where is the story going, right? It's very weird. And then the other thing is the art style. It's I don't care what argument you make. The art style is I don't know why I'm blanking on this. Opposite of improvement. I don't want to say worse, but I can't think of a word. Comparatively, relative to part 1, the art style in part 2 is not great. Especially when you compare it to like Fujimoto's stuff in Look Back and Goodbye Eri. It's like, it's not hitting. So I was thinking this whole arc was to get Momo to fall in love again, but Okarun does the work. Momo always did the hard lifting before. Now I'm starting to think we're not going to get that for a while. Jermaine's going to pull some shenanigans next chapter for sure. I think everyone's fears are somewhat justified in that we're building up to Okarun fixing Momo, and just as it happens, Saint Germain is gonna like capture Momo basically. So that's what it feels like Tatsu is teeing up. Not as good because power? Yeah, I gotta be honest, I was not a fan of Fujimoto hyping up Aki and power at the end of that one chapter just for them to be like a very minor cameo in the next chapter. It is nice that we did get that cameo, but I don't know. I feel like the power thing should have happened, and it's, I don't know. It feels like one of those Fujimoto forgot moments. Not that I think he did, but it feels like it. I do want to see. Yeah, no. Okay. The pacing issue in Chainsaw Man is that a custom... So Oscar says Chainsaw Man conditioned us to action happening like very quickly, and now Fujimoto is slowing down the story and we're not used to it. I actually think it's the opposite problem. I think it's slowed down in early part 2, but now we're back to like part 1 style pacing. But it doesn't feel as good as part 1. I don't know. Part 2 is the kind of, or at least Chainsaw Man is general. It's the kind of story where like weekly it's okay, and then when I go to read it like full binge, it gets so much better. So I don't want to make any blanket statements, but I do feel like there's something about part 2 in the current story something's missing. I don't know what it is, but something's missing. I gotta head out. Have a good stream. All right. Thanks, Baby Yoda. We will catch you soon. Do you think we're gonna get a confession and get into the relationship between Okarun and Momo before the end? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I feel like Tatsu is like deliberately keeping things vague, but I don't know, and I don't have a stake in the matter because I feel like I would enjoy the story either way. I don't have skin in the game, I guess I should say. Anyway, I do want to talk about, or I do want to take a quick look at the seasonal anime so far. So if we look at just Mal, Spy Family is number 2 for the seasonal anime, ahead of My Hero, but behind One Punch Man. So I would say they're all, in terms of like popularity, they're all in the same tier. But I feel like that's got to be inaccurate because I haven't seen anyone bring up Spy Family, right? Because it started already, right? Am I crazy? Yeah, it's been out for at least 2 weeks. So let's look at live charts. Go to live charts, which doesn't want to load. Let's try this again. Let's try this. Come on, live chart. Changing the subject, are you watching the Gachi Akata anime on a regular basis? I'm hyped for the current arc. Zodil looking to be an interesting and intriguing antagonist. So I haven't been keeping up with it weekly, but I just binged all 15 episodes and I think it's awesome. I talked about it a bit at the beginning of the stream, but it's not as good as Mob Psycho, but it's definitely more consistent than My Hero. So it's definitely a great show from Bones for sure. It's not their best, but it's really good. They're doing a very faithful adaptation. The sound design is awesome. The character designs look great. The fight scenes, again, not like crazy Science Saru level animation, but they look really good. So I think Gachi Akata is a must-watch, especially since I love the manga so much. But I think Bones is doing a really good job. Excuse me. What site are you using to check stats? So just for like week-to-week rankings, I look at Mal, and then I look at livechart.me, and I go to like the season. Those are usually pretty consistent with like online behavior. So if we go to LiveChart, which includes stuff from last season, Gachi Akata is third behind Spy Family and One Punch Man. Which makes sense because One Punch Man is One Punch Man, and Spy Family, as you know, divided as people feel about that, is still Spy Family. Gachi Akata, as popular as it has become, is still pretty new. Sunday O says maybe Momo will grab Okarun's aura. That could happen, but again, she can like barely even see aura, so I don't know how that would happen. Honestly, this is the first season in a long time where I don't have one clear favorite. I always knew which series I was most looking forward to, and now I'm deeply divided. As of today, I would say Gachi Akata is the best running anime. That being said, I don't really plan on watching the new season of My Hero. I haven't seen Spy Family, like the new stuff yet, and I don't really plan on watching One Punch Man. One Punch Man is going to come down to like how not bad can they make it? Because the story is there. Everyone agrees the story is awesome. The characters are awesome. It's just a matter of like, how much can they not screw it up, basically. Spy Family has a chance to clutch this season, but I don't think it's gonna. I think it had I think it had its 2 seconds of fame as far as like being like the most mainstream anime. Now it's just like another anime, basically. I don't think it's like Kaguya-sama, where like Kaguya-sama, every time it gets a new season, like everyone drops what they're doing to watch it. And then My Hero, I would have said otherwise, because you have people who like really did not like the manga ending, like going out of their way to say how good the new episodes look. But I think My Hero is just a case of like only a few people are really watching it, and people just aren't that excited to watch it, which has been the case for the last 2 seasons or so. I do want to check Crunchyroll, because the last time I checked, Gachi Akata is still the most popular anime. Yeah, Gachi Akata, Kaiju, Dress Up Darling, Shield Hero, which baffles me, Dandadan, One Piece. Dr. Stone is number 9. My Hero's moving up, so I think it'll be somewhere in the top 5 in a few weeks. But I think the thing with My Hero is just like people aren't really in a rush to watch it. And then Spy Family is way below My Hero, but I think that's just a matter of everyone's watching it on Netflix, not Crunchyroll. Shout out to JC Staff. Yeah, they suck. Sorry, guys. But for now, I like Gachi Akata the most this season, but that can easily change later depending on other series. Yeah. gun to my head, I'm gonna say Gachi Akata, but it has the advantage of like it's on episode 15 now, so like I have a whole season to judge it by, as opposed to like everything else only has like 2 or 3 episodes. Haven't watched Love is War yet? I recommend it. I think it's awesome. I think it's an anime for everybody. When do we think... Oscar, I'm going to address what you said in a second. When do we think Dandadan Season 3 is going to come out? It's in full production. They haven't dropped a trailer yet. So when did it end? It ended fall 2026. So October, November, December, January, March, April. So if we guess spring 2026 trailer, a year after that, I'm gonna guess summer 2027. Does that sound right? So like July 2027. I think that sounds right. July 2027. We got Shaheen in chat. How you doing, Shaheen? Yeah, Edens agrees, 2027. The summer season was so intense that it simply exhausted me. So this season isn't a big deal, especially since next season is going to be huge. Yeah, next season is going to be like crazy. I mean, there's going to be so much anime to watch that like there's no excuse to not be watching something. Yeah, I'm excited for the winter season for sure. I've been seeing a lot of buzz for My Hero. I think a lot of people are tuned in for sure. I think My Hero fans are excited for it, but I think the casual anime audience is like, I'll watch it later. I think a lot of people are kind of just waiting till later in the season to see like how it plays out. I doubt season 3 will air before 2027. Yeah, I don't think so. Not even close. I think they'll probably drop a trailer sometime in the middle of next year. I would say like maybe April 2026 is my guess. I feel like I should say something else, but that's really all I have to say. I've seen some people believe the quality has been this good because there's no movie taking up the cruise time. I don't necessarily know that that's the case. Could be, but I don't know. I think it's also just a case of like, this is the last season, so like they're putting their best foot forward. Ken wants to know, what do I think will happen in the next chapter of Dandadan? Definitely something with Count Saint Germain, but I'm not quite sure what exactly. Chances of them doing a 24 episode season instead of splitting it into 2 cores? I think 50-50, but probably more 2 cores again, just so they can do more movies. Yeah, I think that's really all I wanted to say for today. Yeah, that's it. So, as usual, next stream will be Thursday. Thursday will probably be another freestyle stream, although I might make it about Gachi Akata, because having just caught up to it, I think it deserves to be highlighted. So Thursday stream, TBD. Video tomorrow, panty and stocking video. So hopefully everyone enjoys that. Man, yeah, that's it. So video tomorrow, stream Thursday. You know the drill. Anyway, thanks for a great conversation. Thanks for a great turnout, and I will see you all Thursday.